Well, we all saw it, didn't we? We saw the Super Bowl. We saw the Kansas City Chiefs win another Super Bowl. And now, Andrew Mason, more bad news for the Denver Broncos because Andy Reid isn't retiring and Travis Kelce isn't retiring. Welcome to hell, Broncos country.
Status quo. Gonna run it back. They're gonna try to do something that has not been done since the Green Bay Packers of the mid-1960s, and that is win 3 consecutive NFL championships. You have to say NFL championships, Cecil, because the first one of those 3 was pre-Super Bowl.
Yes.
The second 2 of those was when you had the Super Bowl for the first time, matching the then AFL champion with the NFL champion. So you could even say they're trying to do something that has never been done before, which is to win 3 Super Bowls. And after what we saw last night, what we saw in this playoff run, a Chiefs team that was clearly not the best one that we've seen of the Patrick Mahomes era,
right.
Going through a collection of teams and offenses that by DVOA is the best any Super Bowl winners had to go through to win the championship. What can the Chiefs do if they fix their flaws the next few months? And there are many flaws, and they overcame them.
Yeah, you have to say NFL championship, and you can't say three-peat, or else you owe Pat Riley a quarter, just like I owe Pat Riley right now. But they're trying to do something that no one else has really done, three-peat of the Super Bowl. I always thought the Broncos could have done it in the 90s. Anyway, Mase, are you surprised?
They could. You think they could have if they'd started 96, Bubby Brister?
97, 98.
You're talking on the front end of it.
They could have done it on the back end. They could have gone to Super Bowl 34 instead of the Titans. And,
if they'd started Bubby Brister.
If they started Bubby. Yes, correct. I think we did a what if on that. But either way, are you surprised as we sit here on Monday that Andy Reid is not retiring? The Kelce thing's its own conversation as well, but I kind of thought, you and I talked to some Kansas City people that said, hey, Matt Nagy's kind of the next man up. He's in line in case Reid does step away. You know, other than a three-peat, what does he have left to prove as an NFL coach? Some people are now saying not only is Mahomes the GOAT, but Andy Reid over Belichick is the GOAT. All right, all that's part of the conversation, Mase. But
okay.
Are you surprised that Andy Reid is not stepping down after winning another Super Bowl?
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because he still appears to be in very good spirits, still appears to have his enthusiasm. And you mentioned Bill Belichick. I mean, Belichick coached into his 70s. Belichick was winning Super Bowls into his late 60s, right? The last one they won in New England was the 2018 season. You look at Nick Saban on the college level at Alabama, contending for national championships right there in the college football playoff into his 70s. And Patrick Mahomes, I mean, this is only 6 years as a starter for him, 7 years in the league. He's not yet 30 years old. As far as quarterbacks go, he's entering prime years here, right?
Right.
I can't blame Andy Reid for sticking around. And the Chiefs, they've got a pretty good equation because they've withstood personnel losses and they have kept that train right on humming at a championship level. You take away Tyreek Hill the last couple of years, I mean, they get there in a different way.
Yep.
We saw again yesterday the limitations of their wide receiver core, so they're taking a different path, but it's proven to be no less effective. Now more and more it's a great defense with a great quarterback who can overcome the skill position issues on offense.
Yes.
That great defense keeps them in games until Patrick Mahomes can be in a position to do things beyond structured, discombobulated defense and get the result at the end of the day that the Chiefs won.
Yeah, he can take over at any time, and that's something now with Kansas City. They were down, and they won the Super Bowl. Now when they fix their flaws and get back to yet another Super Bowl, I mean, the pressure is ramped up on Sean Peyton because of the Jim Harbaugh hiring. But Andy Reid staying and the Chiefs, Mahomes, you mentioned it, 6 years of starting, 3 Super Bowl champions. I wrote about it in Mile High Monday at denversports.com. This is just beginning. You're not on any sort of like, hey, we're at the crest, we're at the top, and now it's downhill. Like, no, they're still climbing.
You got to figure this out. You've got to figure out how to match the challenge. And that's where the question is, what is the best way? Now, I wrote a column at denversports.com saying, hey, maybe you think about bringing back Russell Wilson. I'm not saying that's what I think the Broncos are going to do. I'm not even saying I believe in that. Just that after seeing the equation of the Chiefs, a quarterback beyond structure, doing things down the stretch after the defense bought him time and the offense time to get things right, there is a reason to at least entertain the discussion of bringing back Russell Wilson. But I talked with people last week, especially on the player side of it. Feels like that, guys who play in this league say things like the damage is done. Look at what Boomer Esiason told me last week at Super Bowl CBS Media Day. So that's where then the conversation has to come with, all right, the draft, what do you do? Are you willing to sacrifice future draft capital or player capital in order to move up and get one of these top 3 quarterbacks if a team is even willing to move down? I sent you this link a little while ago. I'm going to write about it at denversports.com. Pro Football Focus suggests, hey, Broncos trade up to get Drake May. Trade with Washington. I thought, okay, sounds good. They proposed a trade that didn't involve trading Pat Surtain. But is Washington really going to do that? Really?
Right.
I mean, what? Washington's
trying to get one.
Yes.
Washington, who hired Cliff Kingsbury, we talked about it on the show, like they're trying to get Caleb Williams. Now, could you get 2 when Chicago moves back to 2? That's a part of a conversation there as well, Mase.
That would be interesting if they move down to 2 and maybe it's Caleb or write it out with Justin Fields. That's where it gets intriguing if you're the Chicago Bears, because then you're saying, okay, we don't have to have a specific quarterback at the top of the draft, which means maybe you're not in love with those quarterbacks at the top of the draft, right? That's a fascinating conversation to have. And if that is the case, and Chicago is willing to deal, if they move down with Washington and then they want to make a further deal, then if you're the Broncos, even though the trade may hurt, you might have to pick up the phone and make that call, because you do need something audacious. And yes, you tried something audacious with Russell Wilson. It didn't work out. It doesn't mean you don't stop trying to make the big swing, right?
Yep.
Does a great power hitter stop swinging just because they strike out? No, right? They grab the bat. Yeah. They Ronald Acuna Jr., if he strikes out, next time up in the order, he grabs the bat and starts swinging like a tornado again, trying to knock it over the fence, right? That's how he was the MVP in the NL last year. That's what you do. You keep swinging, right? Just because the big swing doesn't connect doesn't mean you don't try again.
Well, let's talk about an interesting conversation then, because Sean Payton was on with Kay Adams, and there's several Sean Payton quotes from Super Bowl week, one with Mike Kliss, one with Kay Adams, where he's like, I don't even know what the rookie jerseys numbers are. How is there a conversation about us moving up when I don't even know the rookie jerseys? And today, on Monday, the Broncos start their 10 plus hours of draft preparation. I have a feeling, Mase, this is just me, I have a feeling Sean Payton probably knows a number or 2 already. Not saying he was fibbing, I'm just guessing, but Sean Payton wants to fall in love. The question is, does he fall in love with one of those big 3? And then can he move up for one of those big 3?
When he was broadcasting in the 2022 season, did he not sound like somebody who'd fallen in love with Caleb Williams already? The way he was talking about the NFL maybe should have a draft lottery because Caleb Williams is that good, right? And teams might tank for him. So that's why when he said that, I don't even know their numbers. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you know Caleb Williams' number. Okay? I mean...
You ain't got to lie to kick it, Sean.
I think it was an exaggeration more than a lie. Maybe he doesn't know Bo Nix's jersey number, right? But I think he knows more than he lets on. Look, you had Drew Brees, who's still very close with Sean Payton, indicating last week that he thinks he has an idea of who Sean likes. Okay.
Yeah.
Now that could be a veteran as well. And that's another conversation to have. But if you really want to long term tip the scales, it's got to be a rookie. It's got to be this year, because in terms of the quality of the class, this is the year to do it. Whether it's trading up or, I mean, we're going to have a lot of conversations about J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy, you actually might even have to trade up for him the way the buzz is building around him.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But J.J. McCarthy's a long-term play. J.J. McCarthy probably doesn't play much for you in year one.
So are you ready with the bridge, and who is that bridge? Lots to get to, but you had an interesting conversation with Kevin Harlan, and it talks about these quarterbacks. So let's set that up. Joey's got the clip, Mase, because it's, again, more of the national perspective, but it goes back to the most important position in all of sports.
Most important position, quarterback, and the most important thing for Sean Payton is having a quarterback who can execute his vision on offense, and a quarterback with whom he has a good relationship. Now, he did say he has a good relationship with Russell Wilson in one of his interviews on Friday, but clearly you had Sean Payton bending and even Russell Wilson bending to try to make it work, and we saw the results that weren't too great. I did catch up with Kevin Harlan of CBS Sports, who called 5 Broncos games last year, called the games at very interesting points of the season because he called 3 games in the 5-game winning streak. He also called the debacles in Detroit in December and Miami back in September. He saw the best this Broncos team had to offer. He saw the worst the Broncos had to offer. And each time talked with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson leading into the games. Here's what Kevin shared with me on Friday.
The quarterback in him, you knew from the beginning, was going to be an interesting dance. And I don't fault either party. Sean wants different things out of his quarterback. Russell has been in the same system for all those years in Seattle, and then he had a coach last year, and now another system this past season. So he's had all these different voices, and it's hard. It's hard, but it just wasn't going to fit. And I think they all know it, and I think they're all honest with each other, and I think that honesty came through as the season went on. But when you saw them begin to win, you thought, who's bending a little bit? I think both bent. I think both leaned over into the other to make it work. And then it kind of got off the rails, and the season ended the way it did.
Okay.
Wow.
Both bent, right? I want to kind of explore that for a bit, because this is something you and I have both been hearing a lot of in our conversations in the last few weeks, right? The notion that Sean Payton did not adjust to Russell Wilson is, to quote Al Michaels, it's a completely farcical notion. You
I would
get
say
it.
balderdash, but yes, I like that too.
Yes, but you know what I'm referencing, right? When I say it's completely farcical. Yes.
Yes.
It is. It just is. Sean Payton did adjust things to account for Russell Wilson's skill set. And frankly, those adjustments, especially when you did throttle back on the passing game, emphasize the run, emphasize shortening games, fewer possessions, that played into trying to win with what Russell Wilson was at this point.
Right. Well, and it's one of the reasons why Drew Brees this last week during the Super Bowl, one of the most important quotes from Drew Brees was, "I didn't see the Sean Payton offense." You and I talked about it during the year. Do you know how uncomfortable it was to tell everyone about, hey, watch out for sale concepts, and then we get to the regular season and you don't see any sale concepts? So when you and I would say, where's the crossers? Where's the sales? Like, this isn't Sean Payton.
I mean,
so when Drew Brees does it, I mean, it just hammers the point home.
How often were we begging for slant routes and asking ourselves, okay, who's going to be the slant god in this offense? By the way, even though Jarrett Stidham, not a particularly effective quarterback at the NFL level, but we were seeing those concepts when he came in there in the last 2 weeks of the season. You finally started seeing the bits and pieces. It's just, you had problems personnel-wise, right? You didn't, you didn't have Courtland Sutton 1 week, and then when Sutton was out there the next week, clearly he didn't have timing with Jarrett Stidham. That was, that. So the thing is, did Sean Payton adjust to Russell Wilson? Yeah, he did. If the Broncos bring him back, And again, I don't think it's happening. I did write about the possibility at denversports.com.
Right.
But it was more of a let's think about this piece, because if people are focused on the headline, if you read all the way to the end, I basically say this probably isn't happening for reasons X, Y, and Z, right? But that's how this clickbait type. I hate to say clickbait, but this is how you get clicks.
Well, people will say,
We all
why'd you
want
say
clicks.
that? Well, read the article. You and I will have the conversation on the show. Like,
Yes.
Should they bring Russell Wilson back? I mean, that's part of the conversation. And we all know, and I like the way that Kevin Harlan said, an interesting dance.
Yes.
Because it
Very
was.
much so.
It was.
And again, when you're talking about Kevin Harlan sharing this is somebody who, when he would call Bronco games, 4 on television, 1 on radio. But when you call those games on television, you are sitting down the day before the game with the quarterback, some other key players, the head coach, and the coordinators, right? You're sitting down with all of them. You're getting a lot of info. Harlan is in position to know better than most on the outside. He's in position to know what the dynamic was when he uses a word like interesting, and he's very careful in the kinds of words that he uses.
Right.
Take that to heart. That's a significant way of describing it.
Yep. And he was there, and he saw the highs and the lows. Mase, you're there, coming home, traveling around. You and I will be at the Combine here in about 2 weeks from today. But Orange and Blue Today, always there for you. What did you learn this week as we tie a bow on today's program? Just kind of your brain dump, if you will, on this last week's Super Bowl coverage, Las Vegas. You were there. What do you know? What did we learn?
Let's talk about on the field first, because you do have a Broncos team that has figured out how to compete with the Chiefs. Some of that is familiarity. There's a long history, Cease, of teams that aren't on the same levels, but because they see each other twice a year, they have that proximity, they have that familiarity. The games are closer than you might think. And that, I think, goes a long way toward explaining why the Broncos split with the Chiefs this year. And you know what? May split with the Chiefs next year, even if these two teams aren't on the same level, right? But that doesn't mean the Broncos are ready to contend. Now, it was there was a lot of varying opinion about how close the Broncos were. Kevin Harlan thinks the Broncos roster is pretty close.
Okay.
Others don't necessarily agree with that. But that's where the quarterback question comes into play, in terms of if you go with a young quarterback, how soon is that young quarterback ready? And if he's not ready, you need a sturdier bridge that can get you to a good season. Because look, one thing you and I know is that while Sean Peyton talks about how they're still kind of pouring the foundation of the offense, this is not an environment where an 8-9 season this next year is going to be acceptable to him or even acceptable to ownership. They want, whether it's with a young quarterback, taking advantage of him being on a rookie deal, getting better, maybe, hopefully having a CJ Stroud-like season or somewhere in that conversation, or it's a veteran who's buying time for that young quarterback. They're expecting results this year. As tough as they might be to find in the AFC West with the Chiefs and Chargers, they're expecting results this year. I'll also tell you another reason why I think they're expecting results is there's some good and bad on the schedule. The bad, you face the entire AFC North. The good, you face the entire AFC or NFC South. So in other words, you face arguably the strongest division top to bottom in football, but you also face a division that's probably the weakest from top to bottom in the NFL, right? So that plus third place schedule instead of second place, because you lose that last game. You start looking at the slate and saying, okay, get a few things right here. There are a bunch of games the Broncos can win. And oh, by the way, as we know and we talked about earlier, you can't write off Kansas City and Sharpie as an L because you've proven that on a one-game basis, you can play with those guys.
Right. So keep figuring it out. And Mase, it's interesting. They may not be quite the allure that they used to be, but the Denver Broncos carry a lot of weight nationally. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure when people see you, there's a lot of conversations about Sean Payton and this team.
Oh, boy. People want to talk about Sean. Boy, do people want to talk about Sean Payton.
There's a lot of opinions on Sean Payton. We'll say that.
Everybody seems to have a Sean Payton story.
Okay.
Right.
I like that.
Yes. Over the years. Or a Sean Payton connection. Phil Simms telling me that when he heard the whole thing of Sean Payton and the Gilligan hats, and this is interesting because if you want to understand Sean Payton, I think a coach you have to understand is Bill Parcells, right? So Phil Simms is telling me when he heard Sean Payton going off about the no sunglasses on the sideline, no bucket hats, as he called them, Gilligan hats. Phil's laughing at me and he's with me. He's like, that's Bill Parcells. That is exactly what Bill would say.
Yep.
Right. And it's important to understand Parcells because a couple of things. Number one, somebody who rarely had bad seasons. I think his worst season by far as a head coach was his first year, 3-12-1 with the Giants. After that, I mean, you'd see some dips, a 6-9 here in the strike year. He went 5-11 working in Drew Bledsoe in 1993 with the Patriots, pardon me. But then in Bledsoe's second year, had the Patriots in the playoffs and really set the Patriots up for a long run of success that Bill Belichick built on. So this is another thing that comes into play in your decision. This team, they're not going to finish 3-14 with Sean Payton as the head coach. I think even if Jarrett Stidham were the quarterback for all 17 games next year, I think the Broncos win at least 6 games, right? This is not a team that's going to look up at the end of the season and see that they're picking second just because they're going to win enough games at the margins.
Right.
So that, I think, has to inform what you do as well, because you look at the draft capital you'd be shipping, and I'd say, unlike Carolina, I don't think you're trading away a future number 1 overall pick. I think you're trading, worst case scenario, I think you're trading away the 10th pick or the 9th pick.
And that's worst case scenario.
Not the first pick.
You may be trading away the 20th pick or the 25th pick. And that just goes back to trade now. The class is there. Mm-hmm. Stop waiting. Bite the bullet, so to speak. Make the move.
I agree. That's the thing. If you like a quarterback there, you go ahead and do it. Just go ahead and do it. But again, I say you got to love, okay?
You got to love him.
But if you love Drake May, make the deal. If you love Caleb Williams and somehow can get him, make the deal. And if you love J.J. McCarthy, if you have to trade up, so be it. Do it. Right? Just do it.
Make the deal.
And that's where the Broncos are today. And you just hope you're making a deal that does not require you sacrificing Pat Surtain, because I think we can agree. That's the one player you look at and say, all right, if we're going to if this is going to work, we need him around. Although, there are some arguments that'll tell you that cornerbacks age pretty rapidly, more so than we've seen in Broncos country over the years. So if you had to trade Pat Surtain, I think you'd probably bite the bullet and do it, even though you don't want to.
Yep. Plenty to discuss as always. And what we need from you is a little help on YouTube, because, we're seeing a lot of people that are watching. You're not yet subscribed. So please do that. We got to do a few things here. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit that notification bell
so that you never miss
a vid. Yes. Got it. Help us out on YouTube. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mase Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey. We got our guy Joey. He's the man of the box. He's Mase. I'm Cease. OBT is a BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. And would you please stay frosty?